I'd like to start, please, with asking some questions to the panel about vulnerable children and children of key workers. My local authority are not categorising all children with additional support needs as vulnerable. Many parents of additional support needs children have contacted me with concerns about the practicalities of home learning and the considerable stress that this is causing them. Can I ask what extra support local authorities are giving to these parents, and where do they access it?
Okay, I'm going to invite the panel members to please indicate if they want to come in, but I'm going to go to Mr. Flanagan first. Yeah. If the other panel members want to come in, if they could put an R in the chat.
Okay, thank you, convener. Well, it's difficult for me to answer on behalf of local authorities, as that's the employer's side, but certainly additional support should be available where parents need it. I think all parents will find home learning stressful. It's not an ideal situation. But I agree with those local authorities which are not automatically designating someone as vulnerable because they're in an ASN setting. So a young person, for example, who has a physical disability which requires an ASN setting might be as capable of doing home learning as any other of the individual's peers. And one of the big concerns that's coming from our members is specifically around ASN settings, because in these particular areas, particular schools, close proximity with the children is often necessary because of support for toileting arrangements or feeding. In some instances, they're closer to a clinical setting than an educational setting. So there is a significant concern from staff in ASN settings, and some councils have actually moved ASN schools onto blended learning approaches simply to reduce the number of people who are in the classroom, because often it's not only the teacher and the pupils, and the pupil numbers will be smaller because class sizes are smaller, but you also then maybe have 3 or 4 additional support staff. So there's a very specific concern, and we have raised with Scottish Government the need to address ASN settings in a different way from mainstream schools, because in lots of ways they are closer to the situation you'd find in care homes with that close proximity. And I think there's a strong case, for example, that if any group of teachers were to be prioritised for vaccination, it would be in ASN settings. And there's certainly a lot of concerns there from our members. But in terms of Rona's question, I think we do recognise that there is a need for support for some parents of children with additional needs, which is beyond education, which is also around how the family copes with the disabilities of the young person. And I think that's a wider question than simply the education provision, and local authorities should be looking to address that.